Hello YouTubers, welcome to my presentation on the battle at the Trebia. We go back to the 18th of December 218 BC, early in the morning. First of all, what happened before? Hannibal already met Roman forces at a river called the Ticinius, commanded by a guy named Scipio, Publius Scipio, who is the father of the Scipio who is going to eventually beat Hannibal. However, Scipio gets wounded in this battle. It's not really a battle, it's more like a skirmish, but he gets wounded. And so they have to withdraw. They withdraw around this area, the Trebia. The Romans send in another consul called Sempronius, but Sempronius at that time is with his army in the south and he marches as quick as he can to the north. So here we have two consular armies. The Carthaginian campsite, of course, commanded by Hannibal. And Hannibal is aware that Scipio is wounded and that the other consul, Sempronius, because of his quick march, he must be a very determined guy. So what Hannibal's plan is to set a big major trap to get the Roman army. Hannibal is aware that it's bad weather. He's aware that this river in December is going to be very, very, very cold. He's going to try to get the Romans to attack. Now what does he do? Even the night before the battle, he places his brother Mago behind this obstacle. These horses, 2,000 of them, are trained to lie in waiting. Apparently it's difficult for horses to do that, but these horses were able to. And his next phase, in the early morning, he wakes up his army. He gives them breakfast, he gives them hot clothing, there's even a special oil to keep the men warm, so they rub themselves in. He prepares them for the cold. First thing he does is he sends parts of his cavalry over the river, and you have to imagine they throw some spears and they shout and they try to tempt the Romans to engage. Like Hannibal anticipated, Sempronius is very eager. So he sends his cavalry forces after the forces of Hannibal. They go back over the river and go back into the camp. So these forces, they charge, return, but now of course everybody in the Roman camp is woken up. And the big debate starts. Sempronius says, we have to attack now. And of course Scipio, the cautious guy, says, we shouldn't attack now, it's a trap, we shouldn't attack. They finally decide to go into the attack. So that's for the next stage. So here we have the initial position. Yeah, you have to understand, this is the Roman army. They have 36,000 soldiers, and on each side they have 2,000 cavalry, so in total 4,000. These guys didn't have the time to have breakfast, they're not prepared on the cold. They have an eager commander, we have of course the skirmishers here also, and the Roman army starts its advance towards the river. Hannibal decides not to move at all, he's waiting for the Romans to cross the river. However, the skirmishers do go a bit forward, and while the Romans are crossing the cold and icy river, bombard them with arrows and a hail of stones and all kinds of things. Then of course the Carthaginian army does a bit go to the front. What I completely forgot to tell you, these little funny squares here, those are elephants. The Trebia is the only battle of Hannibal where Hannibal used elephants. Apparently, I don't know if it's completely correct, but apparently he got off the Alps with 20 elephants, so we have 10 elephants on each side. And the Romans cross the river. Well, by the time the Roman army is here, they're shivering and they're just hampered by the immense cold, because they're wet, plus it's cold, and apparently at the day of the battle it was already snowing. Now, Hannibal still doesn't move, because he wants the Romans to get closer to him. And this is what's happening. The Romans march, 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 march. There's of course the famous skirmish engagement. The skirmishers of course withdraw. Now it's time for the main army. So they get Hannibal moves a bit forward, and the Romans move more and more and more and more and more. Now, Hannibal has a smaller force. Like I said, the Romans have 36,000 soldiers. Hannibal has 20,000 soldiers. However, his cavalry is a lot bigger, twice the size. The Romans on each side have 2,000 cavalry. The Carthaginians have on both sides 5,000 cavalry. Now here we have the elephants, and the elephants were meant to create havoc on the flanks of the Romans, because the Roman allies were there, and Hannibal anticipated that the allies were not used with elephants. So the battle starts, and actually the elephants do their work. Oh, I lost one elephant. The Romans, it does work with the elephants. They create a chaos, but because this force of cavalry is a lot larger, they already push away the Roman cavalry. And the men that survive are trying to go to the river to get to the camp in safety. However, like I said, there are 2,000 soldiers, 2,000 cavalrymen under Mago's control. And at a certain signal, these forces also crush into the back of the Roman army. They are long gone or wiped out. And what you get more or less is what looks a bit like Cannae. The elephants go to the side also, including the skirmishers, and his entire force is being crammed in. Now, the front line of the Romans, because they feel pressure everywhere, they feel pressure from the back and all sides, they managed to break through. About 10,000 soldiers break through this gap, and instead of rejoining the battle, they flee to a place over here called Placentia. So they go away, and this army gets destroyed. Both consuls do escape, but this army is completely destroyed. So we talk about roughly 20,000 dead, and apparently again Hannibal low casualties. So this is the battle at Trebia, and thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it.